Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. We are now just a few days away, so Les and I, mostly Les, are going to break down the big races that are going to be on the ticket on Tuesday. And we have to start, obviously, at the top with the governor's race. This one is neck and neck.
Yeah. I've seen two polls in the last couple of days, all showing it very tightly within the margin of error, basically tied. I think it comes down to two separate things. If you're Andy Beshear, you've got to hope that your turnout effort is as vaunted as it truly has been made out to be. They have worked really hard, have had a huge number of door-to-door, in-person conversations with voters, and they're relying on that to turn out the vote. For Governor Bevin, he's relying on President Trump and all the angst over the impeachment process. So today he actually had Vice President Pence come to town in London and doing a couple of stops on the bus tour in Eastern Kentucky, which is where I think the race is going to be decided. And then President Trump, of course, is coming in on Monday night to give that final push. And in the races previously where President Trump has come in what we call Trump country, he has kind of pushed those candidates over the top. So those are the two competing interests. But it's a really tight race going into Election Day.
Is there something Beshear can do for a last-minute bump the same way that Bevin's obviously going to get one from the president?
No, I think, Beshear has to take a different tact. He's tying into, the folks who just don't like Bevin very much. And he is trying to organize those folks to make sure that they actually turn out to vote. This election will have an extraordinarily low turnout. The Secretary of State has predicted around 31%. I personally think it's going to be a little bit higher than that. We've heard that absentee voting has been higher around the state, so I think it may be a little bit higher. But regardless, that's really low turnout for an election. And so every little bit counts, and that's where the Beshear folks think they have a major advantage because they've been working so hard to make sure that their ground game is perfectly executed.
And have they been doing that ground game in Eastern Kentucky?
They've been doing it across the state.
Okay.
I mean, they're pretty proud of that effort.
And so Vice President Pence was in some areas that, go forth, kind of took some of those areas in the primary. Is this kind of a way to say, listen, to the Republican voters, still come out and vote because things are looking good in the state?
Yeah, I think that the Republican Party recognizes that if Republican voters turn out for Governor Bevin, then they're probably going to win this election. And so you're seeing a concentrated effort to go after those voters, some Democrats who are Trump supporters, but a concentrated effort to go after those Republicans who may be wishy-washy on the governor, maybe didn't like the comments he made about teachers, and are trying to bring those folks home.
Maybe the most contentious race has been for Attorney General.
Oh, my goodness. Really heated.
Really heated. And where do you see that going?
Yeah, all the polling that I've seen currently shows Daniel Cameron with a lead in the race, and that's basically reflective of Republicans generically on the ballot have a lead in the race. Mm-hmm. So you see most of the Republicans on the ticket, they have a slight lead, but the two candidates don't like each other very much. Republicans have always had strong opposition to Greg Stumbo when he was Speaker of the House. And so they've tried to tie into his experience as a Speaker, his 40 years in Frankfort, and a lot of the discussion has been around the opioid crisis on both sides. Daniel Cameron making the case that former Attorney General Stumbo left office when he had a chance to see a big lawsuit against Purdue Pharma through. When he left, the new Attorney General made a deal that made it a much smaller case to win. And then on the other side, you see Greg Stumbo arguing that Daniel Cameron's law firm defended pharmaceutical companies. So you've seen a lot of attention paid to that, but you've also seen it become very personal,
yes,
where you're looking into Greg Stumbo's past history with some documented issues that he's had in his past, and with Daniel Cameron tying into his ties to Mitch McConnell and his brief time as a lobbyist.
Okay, we got to get to the Secretary of State. We've got Mike Adams and Heather French Henry.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting race because you have
Yes.
Mike Adams, who is probably the most qualified person to
Yes.
ever run for the office, against former Miss America and Commissioner of the Department of Veteran Affairs for a Democratic and Republican governor in Heather French Henry. The question, I think, will be how many people remember her as Miss America. If people remember her as Miss America, then I think she's got a good shot. She is the one Democrat that has slightly higher name ID than the others. But if Governor Bevin wins by several points, that might be enough to get Mike Adams over the hump. His ad was really strong, hitting on some issues that I think really spoke to voters, and so that might be the thing that can help him get over the hump on Election Day.
All right, Les, thank you so much. We're breaking it down. Election is Tuesday. Whatever you do, go out and vote.